Hi, this is Dr. Kim Gower, and I'm here to talk to you today about management today. So bad at that when it comes to sharing. There we go. Best practices for the modern workplace. And you'll notice Terry Scandura, Kim Gower. We're the two authors. And I wanted to share with you, it's such a strange time to be a student, and it's such a strange time to be a professor. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've found using this book after writing this book that I think will intrigue and perhaps motivate you, and as a student, motivate you as well, to really find this book as helpful as possible. First of all, when Dr. Scandura and I decided to write the book, we went to the publisher and said, we want to write a real management book, a book that talks about what's going on right now in the world, what students are going to deal with. A big part of that is, and something that hasn't been really prominent in management textbooks for up until just a few years ago, we want to talk about diversity and inclusion. We want to talk about equity. We want to talk about differences in race and ethnicity and values. We really wanted to make it an honest textbook, and we're very proud that we were able to do that, which is why it's called Management Today and not Simple Principles of Management. But there are a lot of things included in the book that, as students and as professors, we think you will find gives an amazing experience in a principles of management classroom. And I'll give you some examples. By the way, I'll tell you some of the things that Dr. Scandura and I did, but then more importantly, what I want to share with you is the feedback I received from my students after using the book. And by the end of this academic year, this book will have been used in a 15-week class that was 3 weeks synchronously online, then 4 weeks face-to-face, and then the balance of that synchronously online. The great thing about it was it makes the students want to learn, and they sort of pick up the gauntlet and run with it, which as a professor, is a fantastic thing. And I didn't realize how much of an impact the book had. I know what Terry and I thought when we were writing it, and what was important to us, again, was to talk about how we teach the class and to be able to try to get that across to the students reading the book. And about 5 weeks into this first semester, I had the students doing a project of their own performance appraisal. And out of the blue, didn't say anything about, talk about the book, talk about the class. It was, talk about how you see your performance in the class. And I had a student say, and if you're a professor listening to this, sit down. I had a student in writing of documentation say, I wish we had more time to spend with the book. They said it's a great book. It's a great book to read. It's really interesting. It has fascinating things in it, and I would love to be spending more time. I'm afraid I might miss something. So that was, again, when you're not asking for feedback and just purely out of the blue, after a few weeks of using the book, that was some feedback that I received. So that was exciting. And then as the semester ended, the students did a final project where they had to write a reflective, I use iBooks or Microsoft Publisher, and they had to write a reflective piece about the entire semester. And I was shocked on how many students talked about the impact that this book had on their lives, not just in the class, but really, on their lives. A lot of that is because in every single chapter, there are a ton of cases. There are a ton of critical thinking questions. At the end, there are larger cases, more critical thinking questions, and self-assessments. So what I'm going to share with you about the book is the feedback that I received about all those different parts. One of the things I will say is when we were done with the book, Terry and I sat down with the publisher, and we sort of laughed because we both, as I said, wrote it based on how we teach and based on how we feel about management and business in general. And we found, as we were editing the book, towards the end, we had each included in every single chapter information, both research and our own experiences, about values and about ethics. And so you don't just get your typical book with a chapter on ethics. That's there, absolutely. But it was very interesting to us. The cases that we wrote, a lot of them are first time cases. You won't find them anywhere else, or things that we wrote as we were doing the book. And so many critical thinking questions. So we were really pleased that our values and ethics sort of measured up with each other, and that we were able to get that through in the textbook. But one student's comment at the end that I loved was, and again, these are in writing, so if you want to hit me up for copies, I have them. But one of the students said, every single class says in the syllabus, you will learn to be a critical thinker. And the student very bluntly said, that's not true. I have never, and these are juniors and seniors, by the way, that were using this book. The student said, I've never learned how to I don't even know what critical thinking is, or at least I didn't until I took this class. And I realize now that critical thinking is the how and the why. And that's another thing that Terry and I felt very strongly about is students, it's not about what. We don't want a book report. We don't want a summary. We want to know how and why these things impact you professionally and personally. And that's one of the beauties of teaching a principles of management course is everything relates to personal lives as well. So had that feedback from a student, had a lot of great feedback. There is a self-assessment in every chapter. And a lot of students said in their final reflections about how much they learned about themselves. And the way most of them said it was, I never in my life took time to sit back and think about me. What are my values? What are my ethics? It's easy just to, the snap judgment, to tell the Watson, well, I don't think that's true, or I don't agree with that. But the students actually sat down through these self-assessments and learned about themselves. And so many of them talked about how valuable that was going to be to them, again, not just professionally, but also personally in their lives. So what I did with the book, because things are so crazy in the fall, nobody wants to adopt a new textbook. I get that, but I wrote the textbook, so I adopted the textbook. And what came out of it was so much more. I mean, it's absolutely what I think Terry and I hoped would come out of it, but what actually came out of it was so much more than that. And again, to have students actually point that out in their final reflections and make the book a key part of their learning in a class is amazing. And for you professors out there that are saying, I do not want to pick up no, I'm not going to adopt another book. One of the things I'm looking forward to is because this book will now be used in a 3-week asynchronous class, an 8-week synchronous class, and a 15-week synchronous class. So I am putting it through its paces, and it has just been amazing. And the best part, I think, again, is that the students learn from the book. It's not you dragging them through. A lot of times, in my head, whether it's teaching or working on a committee, I sort of feel like I am playing tug of war and I have to pull somebody into the mud and drag them through the mud to get them over to the other side. This book had them running through the mud gleefully. And it was one of the reasons I enjoy using it is the students come up with the learning. They become active learners. They enjoy understanding what a growth mindset is. They become their own teachers, which of course is mastery at its finest. So they never look at anything. I had other students say that. They said, I will never look at anything the same ever again in life. Because when I see it, I'm not just going to see it on the surface. I'm going to ask how and why. I'm going to look for what is really going on. So yes, we talk about planning and organizing and controlling and leading. But I think, again, in the book, if you're a professor who's looking desperately for a book that your students will read, that your students will enjoy, with cases about people that we wrote this, of course, through 2019 and kind of made us look good because one of the big cases in I think it's the controlling chapter, was Kamala Harris and her CNN town hall. Despite what your politics might be, it's her CNN town hall was about pharmaceutical pricing and the ethics or, not ethics behind that. And so there's a big case in the book about Kamala Harris, about the research she had done and about her huge knowledge base. But it was also written from an article from Fact Check. so that everything she talked about was fact checked. And the woman knew her stuff. So it was just kind of interesting. I found that to be one of the most interesting things I came across when we were talking about ethics. And I thought, what industry really needs a review? Pharmaceuticals. Another thing that Terry wrote about and came up with was, of course, the college admission scandal. You know, what college student in the world, except those that somebody paid to get them in, you know, isn't furious after working and working and working for so long? It's so hard to get into their school to find out that somebody writes a check to an admissions officer and they're automatically in, and it has nothing to do with skills and abilities and knowledge and hard and smart work. So there are a lot of things. Again, one of the things that came back a lot from my students also in the final was we did an ethics section about the future of management and ethics and what that was going to look like. It came up with some awesome questions and they had so much fun. I had them read the chapters and then do a group video where they talked about the questions they all had from the chapters. And then that's what we used for our discussions during the week. And that was a certain section the students really enjoyed. And some of them said, you know, a lot of times their meetings to be 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And one of them said, we spent 2 hours on that particular section because it really kind of blew their minds. I mean, these are decisions they're going to have to make. And so it's important for us, again, we felt, to put out a book that's easy for the instructor. The students actually enjoy, they actually enjoy reading. There are fresh cases, there are up-to-date cases, there are self-assessments. And I can't speak enough about the number of students that got back to me with the growth they felt in themselves and how they would carry that forward and how it really was a paradigm shift for them. So again, Management Today, and I'm going to post this video for all my classes as well, so they have an overview of what they're walking into. But for you professors out there, deans, anybody's looking for a great book that is so easy to teach from, and I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to, because we all need life to be a little bit easier for us, right? Sage Publications, Dr. Terry Scandura, internationally known academic researcher, and me, who's nobody, but she asked me to co-author, and I just loved it. And I love the book, and my students love the book as well. So I hope that this helps give you an overview of what's going on. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. My name and email are everywhere after being the chairman of Management Education Division last year, but it's Kim Gower, or K Gower, KGOWER, at umw.edu. I'm on LinkedIn just as Kim Gower, so that's easy enough to find. Please feel free to drop me a message. Go ahead and, you know, hit me up on LinkedIn, whatever you'd like to do. And Terry and I also wanted to volunteer. If you want us to drop in on one of your classes, if you want us to drop in Zoom and, you know, carry the questions and teach a class for you, we would love to do that. We would love to be out there with you, working with you, and working with your students on Management Today. So thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to sharing more stories that I get from students. I'm going to look through all the finals again and probably do just some short vignettes because some of their feedback was worth sharing. And I think it'll cheer everybody up a little bit as we go into 2021. So thanks again very much. Take care and stay safe. Bye.